Welcome to a full guide on Axiom's Auto Shade tool. First, open up the Axiom menu with the right shift or whatever you bound it to. Now, before we open the Auto Shade tool itself, we have to select something first. So with either the Magic Select, Box Select, or Freehand Select, grab whatever you want to shade. Next, click Operations either here, or in this drop down over here. Now, let's go through the different options. First, you choose if you want a sun. This isn't the Minecraft sun, it's a custom light source you create yourself. If you do check it, then your light source will do all the shading, and if unchecked, the shading is done by Ambient Occlusion. But without a light source provided, not much shading will occur, as just having occlusion selected results in the light coming from everywhere, meaning there won't be many dark spots. Next is the light source location. You have three options. First, player position. This option places your light source where your player currently is. Simple as that. So any blocks that are not visible from where you currently are will be the darker blocks, as the light source, in this case you, isn't reaching them directly. Number 2, custom position. Similar to player position, but it's a fixed point based on coordinates. The difference is you can have multiple light sources marked by these yellow cubes here, and you can change the intensity of each one individually. So one could be more powerful than the other. When you add a new light source, it will be placed at your player position, but you can change the values manually using these values on the X, Y, and Z coordinates. Third is sun angle. This simulates a sun in the sky, with your controls being pitch and yaw. Now these builds should give you a good idea of what those numbers actually mean. So yaw is how the sun moves around in a horizontal direction around your build. So 0 degrees means the sun is south of your build, and as you go up, it moves to the west with 90 degrees. North with 180 degrees, and east with 270 degrees. And 360 degrees is just back at the south again. Going negative just moves the sun in the opposite direction. Next, pitch is the sun moving from the horizon to the top of the sky and back down again. For this, you only have to worry about 0 to 180 degrees, unless you want the sun to be coming from under the ground. 0 degrees starts at whatever direction you set the yaw as. And when combined, you can place the sun anywhere in the sky as long as you do a little bit of calculating first. Now, ambient occlusion doesn't change much from what I've tested, but there might be small cases where having it selected or not might make a difference. If you find one of those cases, let me know down in the comments so I can learn something too. Now on to global illumination. The technical use is it increases the number of bounces the light does before it hits the block. But for building's sake, the closer to 1 the global illumination is, the brighter the blocks. Here are 3 spheres. The first one is at 0, then we got 0.5, and finally at 1 illumination. So if you're keeping it at 1, not much shading will occur. Now, dither. Simply put, this option controls the noisiness of the shading. So a low dither means a smoother shading with less block types, and a high dither will lead to one with a very noisy pattern. For the block choice before shading, go in with the brightest color you want in the build, as the shading tool will only darken the blocks, not lighten them. As you can see here, if you try to shade a black build, even with global illumination at its max, it won't change a thing. So change your build into a block you want to act as the block that would be the one that is fully exposed to the light. Finally, palette options. There are 2 choices. Automatic will give you a selection of blocks based on the blocks in your selection itself. So if you want a stony look, make sure to build out of something like a light gray concrete. Then it will choose blocks similar in color, but at varying darknesses. There's also a set of toggles to filter out blocks you don't want in your build. The other option is custom, where you pick the blocks you want used in the shading. The blocks at the top of the list will be your darkest blocks, the ones hidden in the shade, and the ones at the bottom, your lightest blocks. If you want a good selection of colors for your palette, in Axiom there's a great tool that can help you out. First, create a large selection, then press enter, then go to operations and generate a color field. Then find the darkest and lightest color you want to use in your build. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same color. If you want to go wild, go for it. Here I picked a dark and light green. Then with Axiom's ruler tool, select both ends. Then leave Axiom's menu and middle click the blocks along this line. Then back to auto shade and drag them from your inventory to the window with the lightest on the bottom and the darkest on the top. You can also save presets if you're doing similar shading on multiple areas or builds, to save lots of time. You can have one for terrain and others for different builds. And that's Axiom's Auto Shade. What tool would you like me to cover next?